Welcome to Transformation of a Nation podcast. I am yours truly, Dr. Rhonda Travitt. Today I have on the broadcast with me none other than comedian Ron G. So excited about this interview today, guys. Ron is one of the hottest upcoming comedians in the country, as well as national and international. Let me give you a little bit about Ron G. He's a graduate with dual degrees in finance and management at the University of South Carolina. He quickly decided that the corporate world wasn't for him, so he decided to do stand-up in Atlanta, which was his first audition, and he said he was booed tremendously. So we're going to talk about that. He said that was the best and worst day of his life. So Ron G's career began as a stand-up, like I said, here in Georgia. He was crowned first place winner in the 2005 Sierra Miss Late Night Laugh Off. Later, after moving to Los Angeles to further his career as an actor and a comedian, he was a finalist on Bill Bellamy's new hit television show, Who's Got Jokes? And also a finalist on the most recent series of NBC's Last Comic Standing. He's also in his first commercial gig audition. He was booked for the gig for Rally's Checkers spokesperson. So that's really huge. Lately, you have seen him probably on the Scarlett Spencer, which is a Nickelodeon show that he'll tell us about, and TV comedy Cousins for Life in 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Ron G.
Hey, what's up,
Hi,
Doc?
Ron.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Hey, Pastor,
I'm
how
good.
you doing?
I'm good. So good to see you. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, same here. You reading off my credits? I was so crazy. I've done so much stuff since then, but it's still funny to hear somebody say your credits. That's the church intro. When people give you he was born in 1908, and then he traveled far west with his family. Just a long intro.
You've been doing so much, though. You've been doing so much.
I have.
So tell me, what have you been doing? How's the pandemic, first of all? How are you coping, you and your family, during this pandemic?
Oh, we're good. Bills is paid. My account hasn't moved. I'm pretty blessed. We and my wife decided to travel across country. We drove from LA to South Carolina to see my family, which is really dope. We had a good time. It was a lot of fun. We got pulled over when my wife drove. When I drove, we didn't get pulled over, but when she drove for about an hour, she got pulled over. But it's been really good. Yeah, it's been really good. I personally been studying a lot and trying to create some TV shows. So when the earth opened back up, I will have some stuff going on.
Well, that's awesome. That is awesome. As a comedian, what has inspired you the most?
During quarantine or just in general?
Just in general, who inspired you to go because you're college, you went to college. Sometimes people think that comedians don't have degrees and stuff. They have nothing.
Right.
So, but you're very smart, very intelligent. You got the degree in finance and everything. So tell me, how did your parents feel when you told them after all of this, I'm going to be a comedian? How did that work?
Well, my parents were not dreamers. They're 9-to-5ers. So they didn't get it. And I was the first one in my family to change the direction of my family and be an entrepreneur. So my parents didn't get it at first. And I remember the first time when you mentioned me getting booed, I told my mom, I said, hey, Mom, I got booed. She was like, you got booed? I was like, man, I love comedy. She was like, well, do they pay you to get booed? And I was like, no. She was like, as long as you pay your student loan, I don't care. And but she still didn't get it until she saw me. But when she actually saw me on TV, she's like, you're really hilarious. And I'm sorry I didn't get it, but I'm your biggest fan. And ever since then, she's been rocking with me. She tried to make all the shows she can. Everything I do on TV, she tried to make sure she check it out. So it's a blessing, man. But sometimes it takes time. Your family, the people close to you that you expect should get it, they don't always get it. But she didn't get it until she saw it. And when she saw it, she was like, oh, this is what you're going to do. Okay, I got it.
Wow. So when the lights are off and the cameras go down, who is Ron G?
I'm a lot of stuff. I'm a lot of things. I think when you tell somebody you're a comedian, they assume you're silly all the time. And I feel like I'm actually more serious when I'm not performing, especially if you ask my wife. She's like, why are you so serious? Because I'm always processing and thinking, and everything is I'm thinking everything all the way through. Simple things. And I'm always thinking about ways to make money and ways to create. So when I'm home, I'm more serious and analytical because I feel like I consider myself a student of life, where I'm studying. If I see something that's trending, I'll like try to figure out what's happening and why. Because also as a comedian, to be a great comedian, you got to be a student of life. I study politics. I look at social commentary, black culture, pop culture. I look at everything in order to take it all in. So my biggest fear is to be on stage and something happens or somebody reference something and I don't know what it is because I haven't done my homework. So I try to study everything, even stuff that like I guess most guys would probably not be into. I still look at it anyway.
Great. One of the things that I saw, and I'm not going to act like I don't know you, so I do.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you recently at the march in LA, the
Mm-hmm.
protesting. And I
Mm-hmm.
spoke with you, and I gave you a call, and I said, I've never seen you that touched and emotional. You were actually emotional, which really touched me.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that experience, just being in the protesting in that march in that moment.
Well, the protest in general is like I feel like it's a divine moment where it's supposed to happen. Like it's supposed we're supposed to have the president that we have. We're supposed to have this disruption the way it's supposed to be with quarantine, and we're supposed to have the civil rights clash that we're having in order to get to make the country better. And I believe in order to fix something, you have to expose it. And this
Mm,
stuff that's happening right now is exposing who we really are. This country was built off of the backs and the pain of black people, and that's how we became a superpower. Literally, black people were considered we were considered assets, and banks loaned slave owners money based off inventory. We were inventory. And so all this stuff got swept under the rug and we became a superpower. And then, now we live in a capitalistic society. But the cool part about quarantine is a reminder that none of this stuff is real. Like
mm,
nothing that we built our country on is real. If you look at gas prices are based off demand. Nobody's been driving, but gas prices have went down. If you look at airline flights, I remember after 9/11, they were like, because gas prices are so high, they would charge for bags. Now they're still charging for bags and nobody's flying. Um, Last year, my grandfather died and I wasn't able to go home because I couldn't afford the flight home. It was too expensive and the funeral was a quick turnaround. And I couldn't afford a flight home. And now I can get a ticket to Dubai today for like $7 because because again, it's a reminder that everything we built this country on is a lie. It's literally a lie. And so even with the systemic oppression and all this other stuff that's happening, like black people are saying, Black Lives Matter, don't kill us. And they're trying to change the face of Aunt Jemima. Black Lives Matter, don't kill us. And then they take off all the white people playing black voices on cartoons. Like none of that stuff is what we're talking about. We're talking about literally don't kill us. So I believe that again, this is a divine moment in the time that we're living in, and it's necessary. And for me, I wanted to be a part of this marching and protesting because this is our civil rights march. This is our civil rights movement. And I believe that this time is different because we have allies. We've had allies before, but not on this level where you see white folks taking rubber bullets on our behalf. I ain't never seen that before. So I wanted to be a part of it in March. And so when I was at the march, I got out my car. I was gonna grab something to eat, and I got out my car because I saw the protest coming, and I saw oceans and oceans of mixed race people, which I believe what heaven is going to look like. If you racist, you don't want to go to heaven because ain't no all white heaven. And all these people are rooting for us and screaming and saying, "Don't shoot!" and they're chanting. And I got emotional because my entire life being a black man from the South, I never had anybody stand up for me that didn't look like me. And so I'm watching these people with tears in their eyes. They're chanting. They're sacrificing their day, their time, their energy to protest something on not necessarily my behalf, but my people's behalf. I just got overwhelmed and I just couldn't believe it. And I still to this day I'm like, this is a divine moment because it's never been like this before. Never.
wow.
And change is happening.
Change has happened. Change has happened a lot. Tell me about your dad.
My dad is a blue collar worker. He works at Home Depot. Uh, Goofy guy, silly guy, likes to sip every now and again. No filter, and he doesn't meet strangers. Like he's one of those people that when you meet him, like you feel like you know him because he just loud, reckless, and welcoming, and just goofy, and takes nothing serious.
Wow. I've heard from a little birdie that you were in a dance group and that you could really, really dance. Tell me.
Who you been talking to? That's so funny.
Yes. And then, so I see that in your stand up a little bit. You do a little dance every now and again.
Well, actually, it's so funny. I feel like before I started doing comedy, dancing was my first love. Like most of my life, I remember when I was in middle school and we had a dance at school. And I think when you're around your parents and your family so much, you don't know when you're terrible. You don't know if you're ugly because you're around your family. But I remember being at this dance and I was doing some dance. This girl was like, ew, he can't dance. And it just rung in my ear. And I said, that will never happen. That will never happen again. So I used to watch videos and I learned how to dance. And after that, I was like, oh, they can't stop me. So that was like my secret weapon with the ladies, being silly and being able to dance. And so throughout college, every time we had a step show, I would have a solo in my frat. And I feel like that was the thing that God allowed me to be good at to prepare me for comedy.
Wow. So you said Martin Lawrence told you were good. So I kind of shocked you with that one, with that
You
dance.
did. I'm like, how you know about my dad? How you know about my dad? Because my dad, he can cut a rug. My dad is a great dancer. He's awesome.
Is that what you guys do when family reunions come around? Tell me about family reunion with Ron G. How's that?
So my dad people don't really get together like that. When they get together, they argue. But my mom people, they do a annual family reunion, and we dance loud, like the sweat, fix plates. That's my family, man. So again, I just love it because we grew up and I remember being a kid and all my cousins would get together at my great aunt house or my granny's house and just be dancing in the living room. She just curses out, tell us to go sit down somewhere. She watching the stories. But yeah, man, I always had a passion for dancing, even when I didn't know what I was doing.
Wow. So you've gotten married recently. And
I
that
have
has it been a year? It's been a year?
a year and 2 months. A year and two
Wow.
months.
A year and
Yeah,
2 months.
time flies.
It does. Tell me, how have you grown? How is married like? Tell me about that.
For me, it's been awesome. It's just so funny. I feel like when you're single and you want to get married, you have a bunch of stuff in your head about what it's supposed to be like. But when you actually married, it's different. And marriage just feels like I live with my best friend. And I never had that until I got married, which was kind of scary because I've never dated somebody who was like my friend and my lover. I had to do it a la carte because if I made him my friend, it would get messy. If I made him my lover, then you would lose the friendship. It's just weird. But my wife, she's dope, man. She's the first woman I ever dated that when we argued, I felt loved. And I never had that before. Like, I legit feel like she's the first woman that showed me. I remember we had an argument one time. Well, I guess I was having an argument. And I was complaining about something. We were in the car. And she was like, well, look, I'm not mad. I just had to say what I had to say. And that's it. And I still love you. And she grabbed my arm and started looking forward. And I'm sitting here like, okay, that was different. You're not going to try to tear me down? And she was like, nah, I just want to tell you how I felt. And I felt loved, and she made me deal with myself. And I realized when you argue with somebody, you only argue over pride, ego, or fear.
Mm.
Pride, ego, or fear are the three things that you always argue about. And I realized that she made me become my best self because before I met my wife, I would get by on charm and being funny, which is like something I'm naturally good at. But my wife, she's funnier than me. At home, she's just goofy and silly. So none of my tricks and the tools in my tool belt didn't work when I met my wife. So she made me become the best version of myself, and I had to be my authentic self. Like all my little gadgets and tricks didn't work. So it was an interesting dynamic, and it made me feel vulnerable and naked, I would say. But I knew God was pushing me towards something different. But I leaned into it because my natural instinct, because of my pride, would be like, run. Like, this don't feel good. She exposing you. Like, just run, bro. You can find somebody who's jacked up, and you can just fix them, and you don't have to worry about yourself. But my wife, she just made me deal with myself, and I know for a fact she's made me a better person across the board. And people say I've gotten funnier since I've been married, but I don't know.
Wow. I think you have to be funny being married because you have to learn how to laugh in the midst of everything.
Man, man, you're right. Another thing I learned too, being married, and I think it's cool, is when people say when you start dating, you meet your representative. The goal of marriage is to be good at conflict resolution and decision making. All marriages is conflict resolution and decision making, but also there's a level of nakedness that most people never get to because they grow up in households where they have so much trauma they can't use their voice. And so with my wife recently, we had a disagreement about something, and I feel like I was holding on to something, and I know that I can't operate in the space of not being my authentic self. Like that's a childhood thorn of mine. If I can't use my voice and I feel shut down, if I say how I feel and you shut me down, for me, that's a dark area for me. So I don't like not feeling heard. So we had a disagreement a while back, and I told her how I felt. Like my wife, she loves to clean. Like she loved to clean, and I've been a single man for a long time. My wife, she be making me wash paper plates, but that's a whole nother show. I'm just playing. But I am more about, I guess, men. We're more about provision. So we're not thinking about the details of the household. You know, like I'm not thinking about cleaning up every day. I'm thinking about how can I make money today to take care of this woman. And one day I was like, babe, you be on me about cleaning. Like, this is a lot. Like, what are you doing? And I said, I don't want to be resentful to you. So I'm going to tell you how I feel. And she was like, well, I'm glad you said that because I'm going to tell you how I feel. And I feel like I've only asked you to do this, this, and this in reference to cleaning, and you haven't done it. So I shut down too. And I was like, wait, you shut down too and didn't say nothing? Why you ain't say nothing? And she was like, well, I feel like every time I said something, you have an attitude about it. And I realized it was my fault from the beginning. And I was like, you know what? And after we talked about it, I feel like we got to another level of us to where we even joke about the things that hurt us because now it's a funny thing where we can say what we got to say, but we do it in a joking way where it feels like love when we talk about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a
And
lot of sense.
and I believe that God gave every man an assignment. Like when he told Adam, he said, whatever you name the animals, that would be. That's what the animal's name would be. And so for men, we have a responsibility. Whatever you name your household, that's what it is. If I call my wife my love or my heart, if I create a warm environment for her, she'll multiply. Women, y'all multiply whatever a man give you. If a man give you a headache, you about to give him hell. If he give you if you give him groceries, if he give you groceries, you're gonna make a whole meal, you know. So I'm learning that my words mean a lot and I'm responsible for initiating the environment for my household. So I always try to speak kindly to my wife. I always try to make sure that even when I'm upset, I speak kindly to her and I be the example, not expect her to do it for me if I don't do it. And I try to be the example for her. Um, and I've seen her heart change in certain areas too, where if I lead and become softer, because as a man, especially a black man, you got to learn how to be a lion and a lamb. I'm a lamb at home. In the streets, I'm a lion. And I can be a little bit of both depending on the environment. But if I'm a lamb at home, I feel like I get the better version of her because she feels safe and she doesn't feel like I'm going to explode on her or leave or anything like that. So I'm responsible for that. But since I've done that, I've seen my household change and I'm getting the best version of her as well.
That is awesome. That's beautiful.
That was
I
a lot.
mean,
I'm
one year
sorry.
you learned all that. You're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game. Because a lot of people don't learn that in that first year. I promise you.
Man, I'm just learning. I don't know if I'm on track or not, but I'm learning.
Let me ask you something. And this is a little. It was kind of ironic for me and it made me think.
Don't prep me.
D.L. Hughley, okay,
Yep.
going out on stage during the pandemic and passing out. Let's talk about that. Can we talk about that for a minute?
All
I'm
right.
trying to understand it, so help me with that.
It was a wake up call for everybody in entertainment. Like I thought we were getting back to a place where the curve was flattened and everybody was good, but when that happened, I'm like, it's gonna be at least another 6 months before the comedy clubs open up because people won't feel safe, and I just feel like it was reckless to go there, and I don't know. I just feel like it was just it was too rushed. I know people ready to make money and get back to life, but this one of them times that's never happened before. You got to just. I feel like God is making everybody lean into um, sitting still,
Mm.
dealing with your real life. If you work all the time because you don't want to be home, like now you got to deal with that. You got to be home. You got to work from home. You know what I'm saying? If you got to,
Ooh,
yeah, like whatever your decision is,
ooh,
you got to live with that. If you don't like your kids or you got
ooh.
conversations that need to be had, you home now to deal with all that stuff. So I believe this is the divine moment to make it happen, you know? And for me, if I didn't have this time, I wouldn't be studying screenwriting in Spanish and I would never get this time back again. Once the earth's open back up again, the time that we're taking for granted right now, I feel like it won't happen again. So all the people who hate their job, this is the time you work on your business plan. This is the time you research your dreams and your hopes and your passions, and you work on your job until your dream makes sense. Like this is the time you. This is preparation. You working from home. This is the time to do it. Not sleep till 2 o'clock and then
Oh,
get your unemployment check. This is the time where it's a shift happening. You can see in the environment right now, like people getting fired. People are hiring more people of color. Like you can see the shift happening. But if you ain't prepared and you sleep until 2 and thinking this is just, I can collect unemployment and do nothing. Like, you missing the point of this pandemic and this quarantine.
Wow. I love that because I was just talking to somebody last week and I said, visionaries take this time. And although it looks like a lemon, they make lemonade. There's so much creativity that comes out of this quarantine. I never called it a quarantine, I called it my consecration time.
Mm.
And so things just begin to evolve. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would love to see, and I can't wait to see what comes out of Ron G when this is over. When this is over, I'm looking forward to that. One thing,
I have a
Issa
question for you
Rae,
too.
go
Can I
ahead.
can I have a question? I have a question for you as well, because I feel like you're a great question
Uh-oh.
asker,
Yeah.
and I consider you family. I have a question for you as well.
Okay.
You've always had a really big vision, and sometimes when your vision is big, it disrupts other people's peace.
Mm,
It makes other people uncomfortable when you dream big and you're in the same space as them. If you're not in the same space and you dream big, people are like, okay. But when you're in somebody's space and you challenge them to be bigger and better than what they are, it's uncomfortable. And sometimes people don't want to lean in that. They rather run from it or they accuse you instead of accepting that. For you, during this time, what made you want to do something cool like this? Because I've always admired you, and I feel like you're a lone wolf like myself. Like, you're in a place where you provoke people to be better than who they are. It's lonely because most people don't get where you come from and where you're going because of title. You got doctor in front of your name. People are like, oh, you're a doctor. You should whatever. Like, no, doctors have feelings too. I did the work, and now I have some few letters in front of my name. But what made you want to create this kind of platform, and for you? Like, what made you want to create an environment like this in the platform for you?
because I wanted to be heard. I needed to be heard when I want to speak. And also, I need for other people to be heard. And I wanted to have a platform as they're evolving. Transformation of a nation. We're transforming. I say one nation at a time, one individual at a time. So you know me well. So I want people to grow and expand. And it is uncomfortable because it stretches people. And I think that often they think that you're putting them down when you're really trying to build them up.
Yeah,
So
growth is
that's
ugly.
just
Growth
why
is ugly.
I'm sorry.
And I was saying growth is ugly, but growth is really ugly when somebody's in your space. It's okay to grow when you're by yourself, but when somebody's in your space and monitoring your growth and that vulnerability, like, it's a little tough. Which is like what I learned in marriage as well. Like, I deal with PTSD and anxiety, and doing what I do as an entertainer. Sometimes I deal with depression, but to have those things as a single man, cakewalk. Like, it's fine. Like, it's uncomfortable, but it's fine. But having my wife in my space and me still being engaged with her while I'm going through this, and I have to tell her, hey, look, baby, I'm having an anxiety attack. Can you be a little sweet to me right now? Because I'm trying to figure out what's happening, and I still have to perform. Like, that's a weird thing. But for you, seeing that your whole life is that, and people are like looking up to you for answers while you're like bleeding and growing, it's a very tough thing to experience. So I admire you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You make me cry. But but what was it like working with Issa Rae on the
Oh,
HBO? And will we see you next season there?
hilarious. Actually, I won't be on. I didn't get chosen for this season, which I'm completely fine. I had my own TV show on Nickelodeon, which I'm completely fine with. It's a pretty cool trade off, but it was a great opportunity. And I think what made me really excited about doing that show was it was the first time I've ever been on set and everybody was black. I've never had that happen before ever in Hollywood. I've been on shows where I'm the one black person on the show, so you're
Mhm.
dealing with all white hair and makeup. You're dealing with all white production team. You're dealing with all white crew members, and it's a different thing where you don't feel seen. You almost feel invisible until people tell you to get in your position, and then you become a thing. Like, hey, all right, action, go. And then before that, I'm in hair and makeup. Like, hey, you got a brush for my hair, and they're like, what kind of brush you need? I'm like, I need a wave brush. And they're like, you can just use this brush. It's like the little brush with the little beads on them. I'm like, this don't work on my hair. And the lady, I had a mohawk one time. The lady was brushing my mohawk forward, and I was like, you can't brush my mohawk. Like, what are you doing? She was like, I've been doing hair for over 20 years. You can't tell me what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh my God. So I learned from that experience. Let me just cut my hair before I go on set, because I know there's not going to be anybody with a wave brush that ain't going to do this hair. She putting mousse on the side of my hair. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? So, but to do Insecure and to be one of many black people on set was just in that environment. I feel like as a black person in entertainment, it was a great experience for me to just see it, to know that this is possible. And also, I feel like my role was pretty dope too. Like I had a small part in that season, but my role was super funny and it was fun.
It was. It was. There's so much. Let me ask you this.
I want to ask you a
I'll
question
ask
too. I'm not
you.
gonna ask you right now, but one day when we do the show, can I interview you?
You can. We can do that. We can make that happen.
I want to interview you one day. I'm not gonna do it today. I'll be nice today, but I want to interview you. I feel like you have so much stuff that you need to share, and like you said, you want to have a voice, but I feel like you're asking me all the questions, but I don't want to ask you questions. I feel like you have so much great stuff to say, and a lot of gems that the people need to see and hear.
Thank you. That's why I love you so much. What do you feel like is changing in the in the industry since the protest and George Floyd and so much? How do you think this and the pandemic will change the industry? Because there were there racial, did you see racial discrepancies prior to it all?
Absolutely, absolutely, I did. And Hollywood is very segregated. Even though people like Hollywood is the place of dreams, it just depends on whose dream it is that matters the most. And being out here, I've experienced racism at comedy clubs. I've experienced racism on set before. I've experienced what's the word I'm gonna use? Cultural insensitivity on set,
Mhm.
where it's like it's not racist, but it's insensitive because again, if you're not around black people, certain stuff you can't say or do, and it can be perceived as racist if you don't know us. Um, and just being heard is just a different time. But again, I believe this is the reset. This is the reset where black voices will be heard. I can tell with black comedy, like a lot of really dope black female comedians are doing great things, and I'm happy for that. And their voice is different from comedians from the '90s. They have
Mm.
nuance and they have point of view and they have really dope things to talk about. What I'm excited about, but the most exciting thing I think is I believe there's going to be another black renaissance, like in the '90s. I remember in the '90s, almost every successful black comedian had a TV show, and it was happening right before all this happened with Carmichael's show, Tiffany Haddish and Lil Rel. Like you can see young black comics leading TV shows and movies, and it's changing the culture. But I feel like now, because it's becoming priority and we got pushed to the front of the line, that it's going to happen even more, and it's going to be a lot of really dope black voices, including myself, that are going to change the way people think and people view us. Because being black is so many things. Being black ain't just, in the '80s, it was just, pop locking. And in the '90s, it was like being a thug. And, now you got a range from Steve Urkel to DMX. Like we black people are a lot of things. Like the white woman who called the cops on the black man watching birds. Like this dude was a black bird watcher, like, but he's a photographer. Like you don't even hear about that. But I feel like, again, we're in a time where things are changing and I'm really happy about it. And I'm glad that this is my generation and I'm alive during this time for this moment. And I believe that I'm about to be unaffordable soon. I believe I'm gonna be a millionaire. Even this uncomfortable moment I'm in right now, watching my friends take off, they're doing very well, and I've pitched TV shows and people are like, you're not famous enough, you don't have enough social media numbers, and I'm like, it's
Oh,
such a frustrating thing when you do
it
all you
is.
can. You're like, all right, God, let me take my hands off. I'm gonna just trust you. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm gonna trust you because I've done the work. I'm battle tested, and I'm built for this. I'm made for this specific time in life to
Wow.
influence the whole generation to do what I do. And it's timing.
I
We're
was
moving
going to
people out
ask
the way.
you that because it's so difficult when you work with somebody and they don't believe in what you're doing or what you have to offer at that moment, because they don't see you in
Mm-hmm.
the future. They just see your now, that you're not famous now. But what about your creativity? You're bigger than your now. And sometimes if without that person having vision for you or a heart for you, they want propel you. They'll work with somebody else that maybe has a name, but their season is kind of over. Have you experienced that? Like, you like,
Oh, you and I can speak about this. A lot of people who have the title, they have the fame, but they don't have the gift that I have. I've realized that my parents gave me something really dope. My parents uh, created an environment for me to grow up where I never met strangers. And if you ever around my parents, if you came to my parents' house, they would curse each other out and make you a plate and keep going like nothing happened. Like it wasn't no shame about it. This is just who I am. And I believe that that's the gift that they gave me when I perform. I know I make whatever environment I perform in better. And that comes from relationships. That comes in comedy. That's even on set. Like I know that I have a specific gift and energy that translates. Because I'm a clean comedian too, and I don't really announce it. But people are like, man, like when I see you perform, man, you just different. But they don't know what it is. They know I got light, but they don't really know what it is. And it's dope. And even when I dated, I got frustrated with dating because every girl I dated was like, oh, you're my husband. And I'm like, well, you got to let me choose you. You can't choose me and expect me to manage your fears. That's not fair, you
That's
know? And I'm knowing now that I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be wealthy, which comes along with the fame. And I'm going to have the thing I'm most excited about is the influence. The influence I'm going to have in this generation is going to be crazy. But I feel like I needed to be battle tested, one, in order to sustain where I'm going. Also, I had to be married to go where I got to go. I feel like my wife was the missing piece that I needed in order to get to where I'm going, because all this talent that I have and being single wouldn't have worked. But with my wife by my side, she helps me with my blind spots. So I'm watching a lot of my homies who are successful, but everybody on their team getting a check.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody around them getting a check and feeding off of what they create versus like, hey, I know I'm getting paid by you, but I don't trust this person. Or, yeah, you paying me, but this ain't a good gig to take. I know it's good money, but this ain't the, you know. And so having my wife on my team and having her have my back, and I've watched her, you know, tell me like, hey, I don't trust him. He tried to talk to me when you walked off. Or this girl right here got stripper charm. And stripper charm is when you're around a stripper, they make you feel like they like you, and they only like you because they get something from you. My wife's like, she got a little stripper charm. I don't know how I feel about her. Like, yeah, I don't. She ain't saying nothing wrong to me, but just something about her energy. And I trust it. I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn to trust it.
Wow. What's next for you?
Um, I feel like today I'm gonna shoot some videos, and I got acting class a little later on today. But in general, I have to get through this phase I'm going through, because I'm going through a little phase where I'm not saying I'm angry with God, but I'm more like, God, do you see me? And this happens probably every 3 years. I have a moment where I'm like, God, look, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. What's happening? Like,
Right.
what are you doing, God? Like, I know you see me and I know you're there, but what's happening? And I feel like I get a little frustrated every now and again when I'm watching things that I create. Somebody else will do it with a bigger name, and then it'll take off. And I'm like, I just created something like that, and they have a bigger name, they can do it. Or, I'm coming up with all these cool concepts and games and stuff like that, and TV shows, and people are like, yeah, he's funny, but he ain't a name yet. And it breaks my heart, but I know it's going to happen, and that's what I have to hold on to. So what's next for me? Planning and preparation for greatness. Um, Me and my wife do a game show every Thursday called Couples Couch.
I love
Um,
it. I
oh
love
man,
Couples Couch on
yeah,
Instagram.
it's a
Yes.
really dope thing where I feel like there's nothing really online for like people that's in a relationship. And I feel like all my other homies, they do cool shows and people twerking, and that's cool. Me and my lady, we like watching people twerk. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to have something a little different for people in a relationship. So winners last week won $400. I thought it was really dope. But I'm gonna keep creating and keep preparing for the next level. I believe I'm at the bottom of the next level, and it doesn't feel good, but I also know that it's a part of my process.
Yeah. I feel like
If
I'm
that
there.
makes sense at all.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I feel like I'm there too. Like
Yeah.
because your name's not big enough that you don't get the opportunities that other people get. But in time, in the fullness of time. Said, I'm gonna have to read you something up here.
Okay. All right. All right.
Said is saying, tell Ron, said that does hair. Says tell Ron the cut is bad. That's a bad cut.
That's a
Said,
bad cut.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
also
Oh,
cut.
oh, that's faded. That's faded up right there. It's all good.
Said the barber.
Oh, I know. He said, yeah,
He's like, I like
yeah.
it you digging your cut.
Oh, I thought he said I need to get rid of it. Okay. All right.
No, he's
Oh, I was
digging
being
it.
right there. Yeah. So
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. Well,
What up, Sid?
I'm glad you came on with me today.
Are we about to wrap up?
I know what you said say 30 minutes, but we can go a
I
little
did,
over.
but I have a question for you.
Ask me questions. I'm just gonna come and give you the show next time. We are really gonna do that.
No, I got questions. I have
Okay.
questions.
Ask me
So,
questions. Ask me questions.
how do you deal with the phase that I just mentioned where you know you're dope, you know you're called to do what you do, but you don't always feel seen? And you've done the work. Part of it is like you got to do the work in order to have God bless whatever you create. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes there's no map and there's no date expiration date on the success. But how do you stay content while you're trying to find your way?
How do I find content while I'm trying to find my way?
Do you get what I'm saying? It's almost like the same question that you asked me. Like, I'm not mad at God because I know I can be mad, but it doesn't change nothing. But again, I know I go through this before. I went through it before, and I was hosting the show. I hosted a show in LA called the Chocolate Sundays, and everybody on the show had a TV show, and I like on the pre-show, and I host the main show, and all my homies had like TV shows and traveling, and I had nothing. And the showrunner was like, "Ron, when you gonna take off? When you gonna do something?" And I had nothing going on, nothing at all, and I had nothing to say. And then shortly after that, I believe that's when I booked my TV show for Nickelodeon, and we did 20 episodes. But that
Wow.
little phase right before I was on suicide watch, like God didn't see me. Right before that,
Right
what do
before
you
this.
do right before that? What do you do while you're in that space right before the blessing?
Right before the blessing, I pray a lot because I feel as though there are people that can help you, that I believe that are ordained to help you, but because of what's in them, they won't help you. So I I realize that oftentimes God doesn't allow that door to open because He's not going to allow anybody else to get the credit and say that they made you. And in
Mm,
that process, in that waiting time, that I'm evolving and I'm coming, it makes me stronger. When somebody disses you or doesn't put you out there like they put other folks out there, then it lets me realize the more you do that, the more determined and the more creative I become.
mm,
So you have to make it all work together for your good. That's how I operate in my mind. Because in my mind, when I get that, I feel like you're telling me that I'm not good enough. And the Bible says, who He called, He qualified. So I don't care about this person's status. I know that I'm qualified. And when
mm-hmm,
He raises me up, you ain't gonna be able to put me down.
mm, mm.
You wanted me to preach a little bit, but so I did.
I did want you to preach a little bit because that's it.
That's it.
It's a bit comforting too when you mention how God didn't want anybody to put their name on you, because I feel like I go through that too. I've never been on tour with anybody. I went on tour with one comedian and I got fired after the first gig, and I did great. But comedy's like that. But also since then, I've had a really dope career, but nobody's been able to be like, oh, I put him on or I made him or whatever. Like, not many people can. Actually, nobody. I think one person be like, yo, I have helped get him on that TV show, but all hustle. And I don't want to be like, oh, I did it, but I know God had something to do with helping me get through that.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I think you've done for me when I sit back, and I think oftentimes when you're in it, sometimes we don't see the successes, but
mm,
I see so much success
mm,
from when I first met you some years ago. I mean,
mm-hmm.
from here to there. I turned on the TV and you were doing a Tide commercial. Right. I turned on the TV another time
That's
and you
so
were on
funny.
point. And I said, isn't that wrong? So
Yeah.
God has done some great things. You have done some awesome and phenomenal things. So I don't think that for me, I don't think you're where you think you are. I think that you're on that birthing stage and when the crown comes out, the baby head and you're crowning, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that you're gonna evolve on the scene and they're gonna say, where did he just came out of nowhere? And it's gonna be like, no, I didn't. I paid my dues. And
Right.
so you're gonna know you have a right to be there and be
Yeah.
in that room. That's my take on it.
You always say stuff that like sticks with me every time I like it just every time you say something like it's just so potent and always sticks with me. I mean, the first time we met, you made a statement to me. You was like, "You look tired. You look tired because you always care about other people, and you probably never sleep good." It was some form of that, and I was like, "Man, I wish I could be like other people and not care and just had that switch where you make me mad, I'm turning my switch off. You, I wish I had that, but because I care so much and God wired me to care about everybody, like even people that do me wrong, I still care, and I hate that I'm like that because it's not popular in this world we live in. But I know that He gave me that so I can always know how to pray for people, even people I don't like.
Yeah.
I ain't praying for everybody, but the people that's in my space that I actually care for that don't see the value of me while I'm in their space, I still have to pray for them. And it's a very interesting dynamic. And it's a crazy burden to have. Where I'm saying burden because sometimes you don't want to have this feeling. You want to be able to shut it down and shut it off and just move on with your life and sleep good. But I've never been able to do that. I think ever since you told me that, it's just a reminder that how you asked me, what do I see myself going? Is I know I got a big heart because I want to change this generation. I want to change these kids, man. And I know in order to get their attention, you got to be rich and have a fine lady by your side. You know what I'm saying? So I know all that's going to happen, but I look forward to being able to change the generation of kids and how they think because I feel like it's just polar. Like either you a thug or you a nerd. You can't be the guy in the middle. And I'm the guy in the middle, but I've made so much money being the guy in the middle. And the thing that warmed my heart was when I first became a clean comedian, I was like, this is stupid. Why do I want to be a clean comedian? Like, but the guy was like, no, this is your path. You need to be a clean comedian. I'm like, well, everybody else is cursing. Why can't I be like everybody else? He's like, nope, this is what it is. And I remember the first time I got on stage, and I didn't curse. I did really well at a place that booed me. And I got off stage, and God was like, yeah, you did great. You did all right. But why you still curse when you get off stage? And he said, if a pastor did that, you would judge him because you real hard on church people. You know how you get. And I was like, ugh. And he was like, stop being phony. Wow. So I stopped cursing off stage. And that's why it's easy for me not to curse when I get on stage. Now, I might curse in the movie. So if you watching here, you church folks, I might curse in the movie. That ain't my words, but that's part of the art. But on stage, I would never curse. But when I got hired for Nickelodeon, the guy was like, yo, we heard you're a comedian, man. I was like, yeah. He was like, man, we looked you up. We love you. We didn't know what kind of comedian you were. Because, Nickelodeon has a very strict brand. Yes. And we found out that you were a clean comedian. You were perfect for this. It was a moment of, oh, okay, guy, you're setting me up to have my own lane. I didn't get the show I wanted. I got the Nickelodeon show. I'm a cool black guy. Why would I want to do a kid show when wearing sweaters and stuff like that? But I was like, no, this is what I was supposed to get. This is what I want to get. And when I did the show, paid all my debt off. Like I'm debt free. Don't owe nobody nothing. My house will be paid off in the next 5 years. Like it was on purpose. And I didn't know that during the time because I feel like, God, this don't feel good. But sometimes people like yourself and myself, decent people, we got to take the long route. They make us take 285. Yes. We got to take 285. We can't take 75, 85. It's just, and it sucks. Being special sucks sometimes. I don't want to say I'm ungrateful. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but sometimes being special sucks because nobody get it.
You're so right. You know why I kept this show going tonight? Because I think a lot of people need to hear what we're saying because a lot of people are in that same place and in that same space feeling like, we're kind of stuck. Like, can we get a bone? Can we just get a bone? Can we just get a rope? But, I don't think it's going to happen like that. So I think that this generation that will come up is very different than the ones that have came up, whether it's in ministry, whether it's in comedy, whatever lane that we're in. I think it's very different because we won't sell out because we've watched and we've observed people come up. We've watched them go down. We know what it's like to have. We know what it's like not to have. And we know how to have compassion because we have had the hard times. And I think God can trust us with the abundance. That's the way I look at it. God can trust us with the abundance. And He's blessed you with a wife. And I can say this, if this could encourage you. The church didn't grow until I did get married because there's something about two that makes a difference in a perception. If you're a single man, if you're a single woman pastoring a church or a single man, there's always that player, something in the back of folks' mind. But, when you get married and the two become one, there's a strength that you find that you didn't have because you're complete, especially when it's the right person. Now, I watch people get married and they're so not complete because they get the right person and they couldn't wait.
Right.
So, yes, I'm watching, when you wait and you get that right person, like you're talking about right now, it evolves into everything and doors start to open. But God takes us a little slower because of the longevity that He wants us to have.
Yeah. I feel like too, part of the reason why I got married is I feel like I outgrew everything in my life. Like I outgrew everything from family to friends. Like I outgrew it and it just happened overnight where nothing felt the same anymore. And it wasn't in a bad way because people are people. And, when you live a life at such a high altitude, sometimes it doesn't feel right to be on the ground. And not even on the ground in a bad way, but it's like talking about your dreams. When you talk about your dreams, I'm like, yo, I just came back from Dubai and I won an Emmy on a TV show. And I was on set and this happened. And your people are like, oh, well, I got a $2 raise at the grocery store and baby mama got pregnant again. Nothing wrong with none of that. Nothing wrong with absolutely none of that. But it's a different kind of dialogue. And I realized most of my issues were spiritual. And so having somebody to dialogue with about those things is very comforting because, like you mentioned earlier, you're dope and you don't see the results. And you have nobody to talk to about it. So you're stuck in this place where, okay, God, do you see me? Who can I talk about? And nobody gets it. Like most people don't, even church people, they don't get it. If your life is work, church, and home, you will not understand my life. If your whole existence is work, church, and home, you will not get my life. I have not worked literally since December of 2018. I have not, I've done some stand-up stuff, but like TV wise, I haven't done anything. And then last year, I didn't book my first year of marriage. I didn't work at all. But in my head, I'm like, God, what are you doing? Like, again, this is another moment of God, I'm trying everything. I got married. I got a wife to take care of. And I can't work. Same time, me and my wife went out of the country 5 times. My first year of marriage. My account didn't go anywhere. All bills are paid. My wife ain't paid a bill since we've been married. And I've been married for a year and 2 months. She's not paid no household bill, not a cell phone, not a light bill, not a gas. Like, and he's been providing for me. And I haven't worked. Like, my last time on stage was my birthday in March. And that was my birthday show. I didn't even get paid for that. But my account has not moved. And I'm so grateful that I have that. Now, while you're in it, it just feels like, God, do you see me?
Yeah.
And I want to tell anybody who's watching this, man, if you're trying to decide whether you should get married or not, I don't know. I don't know if that's what God wants for you. But take your time and find the right person. The person that makes you feel uncomfortable, the person that makes you feel like you need to do better, the person that challenges you and poke on your blind spots, and not even in a negative way, but pushes you to be a better version of yourself that you've never been before and hold you accountable when you say something. That's where you should lean into. And I never had that. And the life I'm living now, I wouldn't trade my wife for nothing. Like, I wouldn't trade if you told me I go back to the streets and have whatever I wanted. The life I have now, and it seems very simple, and it might not be quote unquote considered fun, but me and my lady, we actually have a good time. We travel and we don't went on broke vacations where we'll go somewhere and do the presentations. You know, some of the little timeshare presentations, and pay for the whole trip. Just we take the 2-hour timeshare presentation. And now they're paying for all our meals and stuff. And so I just want to encourage anybody who's listening to this, man. Being special sucks. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's lonely. But if you know who God is and you trust his process, because he's showing you, like, this moment ain't new. If you're going through it right now, just like me and Dr. Rhonda going through it, it's not new. We've been here before, but it's just at a different altitude. And every altitude is another level of vulnerability. It requires you to get closer to him and trust him on a level you never have before. And it's interesting. I'm responsible for another person. And I haven't missed a beat since I've been married. And it's scary, but it's exciting and it's weird and it's disappointing. It's a lot of stuff, but I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for you too to, again, have one person in my space where I can talk to you about this stuff and, like, you get it. I know you get it. Even when you just sit there and be like, I know you're listening to me. I appreciate it, but I'm grateful.
I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I pray that everyone was blessed by our interview today. The openness, the intimacy, the transparency. I know that God used this to touch a lot of people's lives. So we thank everybody. Everybody's like, real talk. Oh, okay, you're so encouraging. So you don't get to see what I'm seeing right now, but everybody is talking.
I want to see it.
Saying scary, but we ain't scared.
Right.
It's scary. That's what Brother said. Scary, but we ain't scared. Trust in the process. So big ups to you. Thank you so much for tuning
big
in.
Ups to you too.
Thank you for the big ups. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Transformation of a Nation. My guest today was none other than actor, comedian Ron G.
Emmy
And we
Award winner too.
Emmy Award winner,
There you go.
nominated Oscars, all of that. Ron G. Be looking for him everywhere, not one place, everywhere. I'm
Everywhere.
prophesying over you.
Right.
You know I'm
Right.
prophesying.
I appreciate it. And make sure you follow me again on Comedian Ron G and everything. Comedian RONG.
Okay, it's that on social media, just everywhere.
Everything
Same
is Comedian Ron G.
comedian Ron.
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, everything. Comedian Ron G and
Thank
Twitter.
you for catching that. I was about to go off and not let you get that social media.
Oh, you got to do that.
Gotta do that.
Got to do that.
All right, guys. We love you guys, and we will see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you, Ron. Thank your wife for giving us this time with you today.
I will.
All right.
Thank you very much. And thank
Yeah.
y'all for joining and tuning in as well.
All right.